You know, when you think about the world's longest reigning leaders, his name has to be right at the top of the list. We're talking about an absolute authority who has shaped an entire nation for decades. So today, we're going to dig into the really unlikely story of how Ayatollah Ali Khamenei not only came to power, but how he's managed to hold on to it for so long.
Yeah, really, that's the big question, isn't it? How does one person hold on to that kind of ultimate power for more than 4 decades? His journey, going from a pretty mid-ranking cleric to the absolute ruler of a nation, it's just a masterclass in political survival. It's a story all about ideology, clever maneuvering, and, honestly, some pretty incredible historical circumstances.
All right, so to really get a handle on the man in charge today, we've got to rewind. Let's go all the way back to the beginning, to the revolutionary fires that really forged his entire worldview.
So, looking at his early life, you can see right away it's completely tangled up with the revolutionary movement. He was born into a clerical family, which basically put him on a path that led straight to the revolution's main architect, Ayatollah Khamenei. But here's the thing. He wasn't just some passive student in the background. No way. He was a key figure, a hardcore activist, and organizer. This is a guy who was arrested and thrown in prison multiple times for his opposition to the Shah.
And all that time, being in the trenches of the opposition movement, that shaped everything that came later. It's like it hardwired 2 core principles into his political DNA. First, defend the revolution no matter what. And second, a deep, profound distrust of the West. For him, this stuff wasn't just abstract politics, it was deeply personal. Okay, so let's fast forward to 1989. This is where it all builds to the single most pivotal moment of his life, a moment that, frankly, almost nobody saw coming.
So, when Ayatollah Khamenei died in 1989, you have to understand the situation. Sure, Khamenei was the president at the time, but, and this is the key part, constitutionally, that role had pretty limited power back then. Everybody thought the real power, the succession, would go to the religious heavyweights, the Grand Ayatollahs. They were the obvious natural heirs. Khamenei, on the other hand, he was seen as a mid-ranking cleric. A lot of people thought he just didn't have the religious scholarly chops for the top job.
And that's why, as one of our sources points out, his appointment wasn't just a surprise, it was a genuine shock. Think about it. He was chosen over all these far more senior clerics. It was a political bombshell that left pretty much everyone, both inside and outside Iran, completely scratching their heads.
And we need to be crystal clear about what this role of supreme leader actually is. This is not some ceremonial figurehead position. We're talking about the person who has the ultimate final say over everything. The military, the government, the judiciary, every single lever of power in the country. That's the staggering amount of power he suddenly inherited, literally overnight.
So, here he is, this unexpected leader. His first and most urgent challenge was obvious. How do I secure my grip on all this power and start building my own order?
And he didn't waste any time. He moved fast and he was incredibly methodical. Step 1. Secure the loyalty of the super-powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. Step 2. Put his own allies in charge of the judiciary. Step 3. Get control over the Boniads. These are massive economic foundations, almost like conglomerates, that control huge chunks of Iran's economy. And then finally, Step 4. He started to work on elevating his own religious authority, to sort of grow into the stature of the title he now held.
So when you look at all those moves together, you see a really clear set of priorities emerge. Everything, and I mean everything, was about protecting the revolutionary ideology. That meant building up the security state, dealing with the reconstruction after the devastating war with Iraq, and always pushing back against what he termed a cultural invasion from the West. That right there, that was his playbook for survival and for consolidating power.
And you know what? That playbook proved to be incredibly effective. It's what carried him from those shaky early years into what has become one of the longest political reigns in the entire modern world.
Just take a second and look at that number. Over 35 years. Let that sink in for a moment. To put that into perspective, he's been in power since before the Berlin Wall came down, before most of us had ever even heard of the internet. His time in power just dwarfs the tenure of leaders in most Western democracies. Now, okay, it's not quite on the scale of a monarch like Queen Elizabeth II, but he has outlasted generation after generation of U.S. presidents, British prime ministers, and other G7 leaders. They come and go in a few years, while he has remained the one constant.
And over all those decades, he's had to navigate some absolutely huge challenges.
We're talking about serious economic stagnation, a major nuclear standoff with global superpowers, and multiple waves of domestic protests, all while facing crippling international sanctions. And through it all, his response has always been framed through this lens of defiance and resistance. You hear these official phrases like heroic flexibility or the resistance economy, which really became the slogans of his rule. It was always about pushing a message of self-reliance against all this external pressure.
And all of this brings us right to the final big question that still hangs in the air. After all these decades of consolidating power, of steering his nation through one crisis after another, what will history ultimately say about him? What will be the legacy of this unexpected successor who became one of the most enduring and consequential leaders of our time? Well, that is still the great unanswered question.